Hey, good morning, folks. Good morning, Patriots. Welcome back to Wake Up Patriots. It's in the name, so here we are. And we got another great, I don't know, this isn't really a show. It's more of a discussion. And obviously, you're part of the show, and we love you being here, and we love being here, so it all works out. We're going to have Karen Turk with us this morning. She's, this is her time to shine, and she'll be shining doing Wake Up Patriots for us. What am I saying? Wake Up Jesus. Jesus calling on Wake Up Patriots. There we go. I got the word together there. And we'll be going through and talking about a lot of things that relate to things that are being said by Kamala and that will impact on us and our spirituality and why it's important to be involved. So without further ado, speaking of Jesus, Chris Cordani. So he's the guy that actually is a miracle worker on our show. So good to see you, Chris.
That's right. Getting them French fried taters too in the morning.
That's right.
Good. Yep. That's right.
Oh,
Good morning.
But just to set the folks correct, you can't walk on water, but you do miracles, right? I mean, you're like a master of electronics. You're like the Yoda of the airwaves, right?
I suppose the pilot of the airwaves. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. What was that? Charlie Duray did that song. Was it 1980 or was it 79? And doing back,
I think it was 79.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we're geezing again, but I think that's good. I think the folks enjoy our geezing. So
I think so too, because we all remember this. This is back.
Yeah.
This is the great when America was great, when the music was great. And I think that's what we mean by making America great again. Putting the good music back on the air, that sort of thing.
Well, I was watching something yesterday on Facebook of Cherie and Marie in 1978 in Japan. Did you see that? I know you saw it because you liked it.
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
I saw your like on Facebook. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I sent it off to several friends like, hey, she was young back then. It's like, we were all young back then. What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, I mean, she was like what? 78, what she was 19,
let's not do the math. I don't think women like that. I think we can get into some serious trouble.
We're going to her birthday party on November 1st, and she's 65. So I think Cherie's okay with it.
I know. I'm just kidding around. But if that's the case, we're looking at what was it? You're looking at 20. Well, you're looking at somewhere in the 20s. How about that? We'll leave it at that. And I have a terrible video that I'd love for you and Karen to look at.
Terrible, as in like the Blob terrible of. Hey, there's Karen. Good morning, Karen.
I'm here. I'm laughing between Wake Up Jesus and Chris has a terrible video that he wants to show us.
It's terrible.
I know.
I'm very glad to be here with everyone this morning. Good morning, Patriots. I was already in the chat. The Wake Up Jesus thing made me laugh out loud so hard, Tony. I didn't know if my mic was on. But that was perfect. That was a great way to start the morning.
We're still trying to find the proper words to get Ed to fire us. We're saying it's like, okay, we're looking for the right combination. So, someday, Ed, we'll get it right. You'll say you guys are out of here. So,
maybe we should
I don't think so. I think Ed, Ed obviously likes having us around. He's, kept me around for a while now. We have a good thing going on. I like our discussion that we have here on these non-show of a show.
Kidding, yeah. I mean, I always call him our evil overlord, but Ed, you're as overlords go, you're pretty cool. Just saying. So.
He's a good overlord. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, you're no Klaus Schwab. Just saying. So
if he's the overlord, we're the underwear. So there we go.
Underwear. Oh my.
Speaking of overlords, I mean, that always makes me think of Hillary Clinton. Did anybody see this moment where Joe Biden told her that he loved her? Has everyone seen that tape?
How did I miss that?
At the Clinton Global Initiative, he teared up and told Hillary Clinton that he loved her. And I thought, here we are again, folks. Welcome to the show. Like, have they not told you what they were doing? Did you not know this? And it really, is touching because you see this man with dementia because at the moment, I don't want to remember that he's the president of the United States. And, he's saying he loves her. And it seems like an old man, wishing someone, in his family well. So, it's just a good reminder that all the globalists are connected.
Well, so
it's
Karen,
a global
I got a question
world.
on that point. Was there more love between Hillary and Joe than a Puff Daddy Lou party? I'm just asking because
Ooh.
I mean that's a lot of love going on.
I mean, I don't know. I there's so much to ponder here, but I think, if you're P. Diddy, like, is anybody, I mean, I don't, and I'm not,
No.
Obviously if there's been any kind of, malice where people have been trafficked, I want to be sensitive to that. I don't want to make a joke out of it. But
No,
at the same time,
I
is
don't
anybody
either, but-
surprised? Is anybody shocked by this? Because I'm not. I'm not shocked at all.
No, that's why I'm saying. That's why I circled the square with that, because there's a picture of P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, with Hillary, and there's like, no, I'm serious. There's a video out there, and he's like saying that she's all hip with the kids, and this is like 92. I swear to God, Chris, have you seen that video?
Yes, yes, I have. That's when he was Puff Daddy, right?
He's on this side, she's on this side, and he's got her hands all over her. So I think he was trying to lube her up. Just nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think that's when he was Puff Daddy or Poof Duty or whatever his name was.
Duty.
But I have a feeling that people are going to, I believe this guy is going to sing like a canary, and he's scaring a lot of people. You see a lot of these stars now. Pink and Usher were a couple of them that closed their accounts. Usher's people were saying he was hacked, but that's what they all say. But they're closing their accounts and knocking off a lot of their old tweets. So there's something to this. There's something to possibly singing like a canary coming out of, I don't know what he calls himself now. Poof Diddy, Poof Duty, whatever.
He calls him inmate 5874. That's what he calls.
Hey, yo. There it goes.
Drop the mic.
Yes.
Drop the mic, Tony.
He does.
Yeah. And there were so many people wrapped up in this, but you know what? It's like the Epstein logs and all the Epstein stuff that was going to come out, and all these people in Hollywood were going to go down. Do you remember all that? And they were finally going to be exposed for all their wrongdoing, and it never happened. And you know what?
No.
The media overinflates everything. We could look at our side too. It's, Donald Trump's going to jail. If you listen to, CNN and The View. And here we are, nobody went to jail. So, like, is this going to come of anything? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he will end up in jail. Maybe he won't. Maybe he, there's more to it for sure. He probably will sing like a canary. But at the end of the day, how does that really affect any of us? Is this just a distraction? Or what are they distracting from? I have to ask myself.
Because we have to know what our world leaders are doing. Right. We have to know what our leaders are doing.
So let's follow it up a little bit, because right now, the other distraction is Mark Robinson here in North Carolina, because apparently at some point he posted something somewhere that CNN says, CNN, the most trusted name in media. Okay. And he's going to sue him. But it's, to me, indicative of the left. Like Puff Daddy is apparently equivalent to some guy posting, if it's true. I don't know. I've met Mark Robinson. I don't know. I'm supposed to be on with Ask Dr. Drew tonight to talk about this. So I have.
I like Mark a lot. I've always been a fan of Mark Robinson. I think he does great work. I think he's a phenomenal speaker.
My point being is, to quote Harrison Ford. Remember, Chris? They asked Harrison Ford who shot first in the bar scene, and Harrison Ford's answer was, "I don't care," and I don't care. I don't care what it. But there it is, Karen. See, look at that. Is that lubalicious or what? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it's a freak show. Isn't that what he called it? A freak show? Wasn't that the experiences he was offering to his guests? And if these people were willing participants and they're consenting adults, like, you know what? The super rich, wealthy people, especially in Miami, do weird stuff. This is just a reality. And, this is why you want to steer clear of these people. This is why you don't want to vote them into public office. This photo right there. But meanwhile, you have Joe Biden telling this woman, this, beast, how much, he loves her. And it's just singing the praises of the globalist empire that is running this country. And if we don't have some sort of November surprise and take back this country, we're really screwed.
Yeah.
Screwed.
So, Karen, this is a great path to go down. And I want to, Chris, I don't know if you're ready to go down the path, but we'll see in a second. So one of the things that we in our little tribe talk about all the time is the World Economic Forum and their globalist agenda. Right now, they're talking about their Project 2030, which, to summarize, is you'll own nothing, you'll watch Puff Daddy reruns and be happy. Right? That's the program. And one of the things, I was on with my friend Chris Stiegel this morning in Philadelphia, and we're talking about this. Yeah, there it is.
The pact for the future.
Yeah, the plan for the future. Chris was talking about this yesterday, and we're going to talk about this a little bit this morning. This plan basically is to subjugate humanity and I'm not joking about this, a group of overlords who basically dictate to us what we can and cannot do based on whatever their dictates are. It's it. The technical term is feudal mercantilism. They want to change. They want to take us all back to these feudal states that essentially are profit centers for them. We are nothing more than animals to be bred, moved into, working to support them, and that's it. You will own nothing and be happy. And in the context, one of the things Chris Stigall said, and I agree with him, every time they bring up 2025, we should bring up 2030. 2025's
Always.
Heritage Foundation product. It's like, no, 2030 is real, and they're trying to put force behind it at things like the UN. So what do you think, Karen?
I think people need to wake up and listen. Wake up, Patriots. I don't know what else to say because you're saying that, and it's a very good point. And I think we need to definitely hit that home. But I also look at it and I think to myself, the country has fallen so far and people have been unaware. Is there some sort of major shift that's taken place, where all of a sudden this globalist enterprise is going to be uncovered? Because Donald Trump's the guy to do it. And I'm hoping that November surprise is it. But we need something big because people need to wake up. I don't know what else to say because I think there are a lot of people that are still not listening, Tony.
Well, you don't have to say anything because what we should do is listen to what the people at the General Assembly were saying. There were ambassadors and there were dignitaries all over doubling down all day Monday at the General Assembly, and it was a terror to watch if you're really watching. By the way, Chris Cordani has said this on this program and other programs beforehand too about every time an idiot mentions Project 2025, you should say the real problem is Agenda 2030. You want to hear from some of these people? I have three.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah,
we're going to start with this is the president of the Czech Republic, followed by two ambassadors, one from Poland and one from I forgot where.
The 2030 agenda is our common goal and the roadmap for sustainable development. Now we have a unique opportunity to accelerate its implementation.
We all can see significant shifts in international relations. The order based on international law and solidarity enshrined in the UN Charter is under serious threat. The global multilateral system has become in many ways dysfunctional and needs to be reformed. We cannot accept that those who challenge the order based on the UN Charter are gaining strength.
We need to invest more in respectful, practical, and result-oriented cooperation, just like we did with this pact. It's also a way to reduce the mistrust among UN members and institutions. I consider the Pact for the Future a stepping stone of adoption, not the end of the journey.
Not the end of the journey. So they're going to keep forward. They doubled down on Agenda 230. This is a new version of it. And they're going to say this is only the beginning.
Right.
Well, I mean, what wasn't the world supposed to end? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the world supposed to end? Wasn't there supposed to be some global pandemic that was going to take all of us out? Or wait, was it going to be global warming? Now, I guess it's good to think that they've extended the timeline to 2030. They're optimistic.
Let me cover that a little bit because as someone who's actually a credentialed national environmental studies expert, I actually have a degree. Karen, they've been ringing the bell of disaster since I got my degree back in the 80s. I mean, you all can look it up. Wright State University, Dayton, Ohio. Yeah, so you guys can look it up. Wright State University, Dayton, Ohio. You can go check it out. I'm one of their notable graduates. My degree is in environmental studies and political science. So to that point, did you know that at one point we're supposed to be completely out of oil, something called peak oil? So apparently, we were told that that at some point, probably in the 90s, we would reach a point of where there was more demand than supply of oil. And then we'd be driving around like Fred Flintstone in the cars with our feet, doing the pitter patter on our feet. And it was all about we're going to be cooking. We're going to you're going to just take a pot of water outside and put it in the sun, and you're going to have hot water for boiling eggs if you can find them. It's all about lack of this over the top threat of the end of civilization, and they use it to scare people, like Ocasio-Cortez, right? Didn't she say when she first came into office, we'd all be dead by now? We're not. Karen, are you dead? I don't think you're dead.
What about I was supposed to die as a child? I was supposed to die multiple times. There was acid rain. There was all sorts of stuff. Then we were going to have these superstorms. Do you remember the superstorms were coming? There has been so much hoopla around the environment that unfortunately it's turned a lot of people off, where again the reality escapes them. Tony, you have a degree, you can see what's really happening. We have cyclical changes in our environment. We have things to happen.
Let me hit that, Karen. I've got a degree and they won't listen to me because I actually go and use facts and science to base my comments on.
You challenge the establishment. Right. You're challenging the establishment.
Yeah. So first off, did you know that less people die today from weather-related events than ever in history? Ever. And we got more people now. Think about that. It's like we have a greater population globally, and yet
we have 11 million more people because of Kamala Harris. We have 11 million more people.
Yeah. So
here in this country,
it's a fiction. So speaking of global warming, there's Dr. Corsi. Now he's not a source of global warming. That's not what I'm saying. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The United Nations. There. Go ahead, Tony. You got it.
No. I just wanted to. Speaking of climate, Jerry wrote a book on it. There it is.
There we go.
The truth about global energy, global warming, and climate change. So, man, oh man, we're talking about this, and you appear. It's like magic.
Yeah,
there you go.
Thank you. Look, my take on the United Nations is that they realize that they're losing, and this is their last chance, and so they're running naked to the finish line. They know they're scared. They know people are dumb.
So they're like Puff Daddy, in other words.
Yeah, they're just. I mean, the vast majority of Americans want honest elections. They're sick and tired of these mail-in ballots just coming in bushels. They're tired of listening to that. They're going to have to eat crickets and bugs. You know, this agenda, the agenda these globalists are serving up is not particularly inviting. You can live in a 15-minute city. You could have an EV. You know, the EV junkyards are piling up with EVs pretty fast.
Right.
You know,
but that's the thing, Jerry. I want to hit that, and then I want to have Karen do Jesus calling, not Jesus waking up, although I'm sure he's woken up after all the nonsense this morning.
Wake up, Jesus. That was so good.
We woke him up. We got him out of bed early. Anyway, but my point being, Jerry, to that thing, that's why they scare people into thinking they must comport to their comments. You must live in if you are someone who cares, remember, it's all about care. Ooh, do you care? If you care, you're going to constrict yourself to driving a 2008 Prius, and you're going to live in a small apartment with 5 cats and 3 parakeets, and you're going to lower your carbon footprint. Remember, Jerry, a few years ago, the World Economic Forum came out with an app to track that you could track on your phone.
Oh yes,
your carbon footprint.
Yeah, sure. And the ozone.
It's
we're all going to die
from
the ozone hole is going to open up. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
They're always saying we're all
the ozone. I forgot about the ozone hole. I haven't talked about that in a while.
Don't forget
that
about
was the hairspray. I was contributing with my hairspray in the 80s.
Aquanet, right?
The Aquanet, exactly. The pink and white can, by the way. Best one. Aquanet, pink and white. Always a staple.
Can I read something to you guys? I read this to Jerry this morning. I want to read this to you guys too, because Dr. Corsi touches on the doubling down and talks about all this and what he's going to talk about the God's 5 stones. I want to read something to you from the pact. I read it yesterday on this program, but I want you to read to it like thinking about this. This had sustainable development so many times in the same paragraph, you think Kamala Harris's speechwriters were putting this together. Ready? We recognize that sustainable development in all its 3 dimensions is a central goal in itself, and that its achievement, leaving no one behind, and will always be a central objective of multilateralism. We affirm that our enduring commitment to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals. We'll urge, and you keep going, and later on it's more, and again, they use sustainable development at the end of the paragraph. I don't need to read all of it. But
is this AI? Is it AI?
No,
is that why?
Artificial unintelligence.
It's bad.
That's what it's Harris's speechwriter. It's that 4-year-old that you did on your when you were hosting the show a couple months ago. Remember, Karen?
That's
but
right.
the 4-year-old speechwriter. Look at some of the words they use. Order-based.
Yes.
Order. That is as in like they're going to order order the system. and multilateral global networks. And it's all about how they can then take and remove sovereignty from nations. And that's what all this is about. When you see this mass immigration, I don't want to go down this path because Jerry's got things to talk about. But if you look at what's going on in England, going on in France, it's all about sending in essentially invasion by migration, trying to undermine and overwhelm services of and political systems. That's open. I'm not even. You don't have. They're not even hiding it. The Open Society Foundation, Soros. That's who's doing it. If there ever was a Bond villain, it's George Soros. And you see these fictional guys. It's not about some Blofeld getting nuclear weapons in orbit. No. You don't need nuclear weapons. You're just going to have people, human waves overwhelm the system. But with that said, we want to have a good human referred to, a godlike human, Jesus. So could you, Karen? Could you
I would love to. Today's
Jesus
good too.
Because the folks love that.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it right now. Let's go, guys.
Great.
Jesus calling, love first and foremost in my presence. Gradually, you become more aware of me than the people and places around you. This awareness will not detract from your relationships with others. Instead, it will increase your ability to give love and encouragement to them. My peace will permeate your words and demeanor. You will be active in the world, yet one step removed from it. You will not be easily shaken because my enveloping presence buffers the blow of the problems. This is the path that I've set before you, and as you follow it wholeheartedly, you experience abundant life and peace. It's a good one for today. And they recommend reading Psalm 89:15 and Psalm 16:8. Just FYI, if you want to do a follow-up, because I thought that was a good one. Amen, guys.
Amen. Thank you for doing that. And I think the folks understand that there is something important and magical in a good way about the powers that have brought us together. And by the way, for the Patriots, I don't think it's by just happenstance, just happened that we're all together now. Karen, Chris, Jerry, I think there's a real bringing together people who actually have an understanding of what's going on to help prevent disaster that I think could befall us if Kamala and other globalists are successful. And I hate to sound like there's a fight for good and evil, but it's kind of a fight for good and evil, right, Jerry?
At this point.
It's good and evil. I mean, what we're doing, the election theft is the major issue on my mind right now. This God's Five Stones website. Please take a look at it.
Right, please.
I wrote an article that's on it today about whether the intelligence agencies are actually running our elections right now. And I'm raising that issue. I think they actually are. What we found is in any number of states, and we'll be reporting on New Jersey now this week, I have algorithms, which are codes that are written into the state Board of Election voter registration file. So in other words, someone has actually gone in and done a cryptography scheme and embedded it into the mainframe computer program on which the state board of elections runs the election. This is their data. It's on their server. It's an inside job. And I think it's unbeknownst to most of the state officials running elections. Now, what this does is it operates like a card marking scheme where the goal here is to get non-existent persons, people don't exist at all, fictional, to get them to have legitimate state IDs as voters so that they can be used in mail-in votes that will be certifiable, because the number assigned to the voter will also be the number that shows up on the mail-in ballot when it's counted. Yeah. But the person doesn't exist. That's the key to this whole idea, to understand how it's done. And it starts in every state with a shuffling of the cards. In other words, a renumbering of the voters. Now, why is that? When you get a deck of cards from the manufacturer, they come in cellophane. That's supposed to mean that they haven't been opened. Supposedly they weren't opened, marked, and the cellophane put back. We assume that it's legitimate from the manufacturer. and they're organized from the top highest suit, highest card in that suit to the lowest suit, lowest card.
Yeah.
So if you just put in randomly marked cards, they're going to be obvious because they're the ones that are out of order. So you can't do that. First, you got to shuffle the cards. Okay, now, so this scheme starts the same way. If you take the voters, the natural order to give voter ID numbers is by the date in which they register. So voter ID should be a function of, mathematically, a function of the date they register. That'll determine the number they get. Now, what the states have done after this HAVA law, they have, this Helping America Vote Act, which is essentially help criminals steal election act, is you rip off the registration date and you don't use it. And so suddenly you just got a bunch of, 3 million or 5 million or 20 million people who are on your voter registration base, and you've got to number them. You've got to organize them. So you do it by the means of a mathematical formula. And one of the most common ones is to use what they call rep units, which are like numbers 111 or 1111 and 0.11. They're all strings of one. But what that means is you can take the first voter in chronologically and you give it number 1, and the second voter is number 1112. I use the example, what they do to renumber is like everybody knows who their children are. Firstborn child, you know who that is. Our thirdborn child, that was the one who was good in music. You know who you're talking about. But the state comes along and says, no, your children are ordered by us. Number 1, your second child is 12. Your next child is 23. Your fourth child is 34. The fifth child is 45, and the sixth child is 56. And you say, I don't have 56 children. I've got 6. They say, well, according to our records, there's 56 children in your records. Okay, now, and the state might admit, they'd say, well, 1 and 12 might be yours, and 2 through 11 are somebody else's kids that we stuck in there. And by the way, number 3 and number 7 are fake. We just made them up. But since it's all shuffled together, it doesn't, there's no way to tell that record is illegitimate because it looks good. It's got a name, it's got a registration date, it's got an address, it looks like a legitimate voter, and it gets a number, even though it's fictional. With that number, then, and the scheme is the next thing you have to do is you've got to now hide the cards that you marked. You've got to hide these fake voters. So I have another set of schemes which places them back in the deck of cards or the list of voters at locations where the criminals know where they are. But the Board of Election doesn't, because again, they look normal. Unless you go out in the field and search whether that person, each person is who they are, living where they say they are, you're taking all this on faith that you've got legitimate data.
Yeah.
If you've got criminals in there who are determined to make that data up by cloning records, so they change the middle initial and give it a new address, or they just make up a record. They take an address, they make up a name, they make up a date of birth for that person. Looking at that record, if all you're doing is eyeballing that record, it looks normal. And so therefore, the scheme depends upon the fact that there will be no independent field survey of mail-in votes to determine if there's a person there, if that person is who they say they are, if they're living where they say they are, and if they have a right to vote. Okay, and so what happens with these schemes then is that if I'm the criminal and I'm running an election from the state board and have control of this database, I can start voting for Kamala Harris, people who don't exist, and get the mail-in votes and have those votes run through the system. And I've got now a certifiable vote from a person that doesn't exist. And if I have 300,000 of these, I can swing any election I want to swing the way I want to swing it. In fact, I can make it happen the way I want to happen. I can say to you, do you want Kamala to be winning early in the day? Do you want her to win by 1%, 3%, or 5%? Should she come on late in the afternoon, or do we want to actually stop the voting and bring it across the finish line tomorrow? We know how many votes she exactly needs to win. Because see, the intelligence agencies don't care if you vote. I think the Democrats have gotten tired of the Marxists, as usual, know that it's not who votes, it's who counts the votes that count.
Exactly.
And so they've now designed a scheme in which they control who appears to be voting, and they control the count, because they've now created the fictional people that can populate. And every one of these state databases that we're looking at has clones in it. They've got registrations that are imperfect. They've got thousands of records that should be cleared because the records are imperfect. Okay, I'm not talking about people who are dead or people who have moved. These criminals don't care about those people. They're not going to vote those people. That's not where the fraud is. They don't need people who are dead to vote. They don't need people who have moved to vote, because they've created enough fictional people of their own. And fictional people are far better than having to go find a real person. You know, they're far better than vote harvesting, where you've got to go out into a community and actually get people to sign the name and give you their address, and then you go and register and steal their vote. That's old style stealing. This style stealing is done completely on the computer. And in fact, I'm a political scientist. I have a PhD in political science from Harvard. If I were running the system as a criminal, I could model the entire election and run it on my computer. And if I didn't like the way the vote came out, I could throw the votes away, and my simulation would be the official count. They're about one step away from doing that.
Yeah, so let's walk through that for the folks, because we have to move on and bring in Paul here in a second. But I want to finish the thought on this, Jerry. So what you're talking about here, again, we've been making a little bit light of the whole James Bond villain here, but somewhat a James Bond villain with a great understanding of algorithms, computers, and process is able to essentially use some very sophisticated technology to create conditions where, if they don't like a result, they can basically have run a simulation, take the simulation that they've already run and know the outcome, take that simulation and swap it for the actual outcome. Is that the essence of what you're saying?
Yes, and this is intelligence agency grade work, because it's complicated. It's hard to understand. In fact, one of the difficulties is getting people to even understand how this can be done. It's mind bending. And then it's hard to implement, because you've got to do a lot of things to implement this. You've got to implement the algorithms. You've got to make them work. You've got to have it look like there's no algorithm there. And you've got to be able to then fool people by being able to pull out these mail-in votes and get them run through the system. People don't realize you can run the entire election through the State Board of Elections mainframe computer before it ever gets to the Dominion machines and all the rest of it. The fraud is, the major fraudsters have decided they are just going to move in and run. The CIA has been running elections overseas since the 1950s. They just decided to take their technology, what they've learned, and apply it to they're just going to run U.S. elections now by the CIA. And, you know, anybody who's not intelligence agency certified is not going to win any more elections. And so therefore
I
go ahead.
No, I think that's the thing we have to remember. And I think this is why many of us have been calling for returning to going back to the basics. And Donald Trump said this too. Basic machines, analog machines, which you cast your vote, it's recorded in the machine itself records it. There's no algorithms. It's not attached to the internet. It's a basic counting machine. It just counts the ballot. Each ballot has to have a watermark or some indicator that it's an individual ballot that can't be recounted once it's been in the system. So you can actually do that in such a way to say this ballot's been counted. That could be noted in the local computer. It doesn't have to be networked. And you do this in such a way then that those those counts are then amalgamated manually. People call them in or fax them in. There's no computer algorithm. One of the notable features of the Dominion system, and I don't want to get us sued for Ed. I'm not going to get us sued. Just saying. I know that people have
Well,
certain sensitivities.
before you
Yeah,
go to the Dominion,
yeah.
because I kind of want to make a point that'll save you the grief of Dominion wanting to come after you. But here's I think the solution that is immediate that we could do. We've got people who are there as observers of the election going on. They're actually in the when the election's happening. They're watching inside the election center. We also then need to be able to have the same observers take samples of the mail-in votes while the voting is going on and go out and field canvass to see if these people exist.
Yeah.
And if they don't exist, we need to start throwing out mail-in ballots. The first way to eliminate this problem with the algorithms is to get rid of mail-in voting. I mean, that would go a long way to doing it. But if we're going to have mail-in voting, we've got to have some assurance that these people are real. And the only way we can do that is if we field canvass, and we can do that through the observers, having a cadre of them that are out checking whether these people doing mail-in ballots are real.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you, Jerry. What I'm saying is the Dominion voting system is a system. And this is what I'm trying to point out, that when a Dominion voting system actually has three pieces. Now, why on earth do you have three things to count votes? Well, you do it because, I'm just going to say it because I've said this publicly, it massages they have an algorithm, Jerry, that massages the vote. Now, first off, how is that legal? How do you massage a vote? That right there tells me there's something wrong. I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but I know you don't massage numbers. You count numbers and you tally up results, right, Jerry? So I'm just saying that the very system itself kind of tells you what they're doing, right?
Well,
I mean, that's what my point is.
The reason I'm staying with the algorithms, not the Dominion machines, is that part of the brilliance of this scheme is once an election is certified, it's very hard to challenge.
Yes.
And that you run risks challenging it, risks of being of defamation, risks of violating laws that say you shouldn't undermine confidence in voting. What we're saying is these algorithms exist in the data that the state boards of elections are using for the voter records, and it shouldn't be there. And why is it there? Has it been used? We're asking questions. We want discovery.
Right.
We're not challenging that a law has been broken. We're not saying this person's a criminal. And so therefore, we're talking about preventing something from happening before it happens.
Right.
And that's a lot safer in terms of a legal strategy than criticizing elections already been certified. I'm
not criticizing elections have been certified. I'm just saying,
I know
you're someone who's examined the technology. Look, I am a subject matter expert, Jerry. I've actually testified against Dominion in Pennsylvania, Texas, South Carolina, and I've actually done op-eds on this too. So I'm not trying to get us in trouble. I'm sticking with what I've said publicly and not been sued. Just saying.
And you've got a point, because you're making a point generally about voting systems.
That's
and
right.
How they work.
That's right.
And I think
and
I think that the people need to understand there's going to be solutions to this, but they're going to take some time to develop. Essentially, it's going to have to come down to that you have a voter ID that only you can exercise and it can't be compromised. And it identifies you individually, and you have the right to vote that, and no one else can compromise that. Now, that's going to be hard to figure out how to do. But in the immediate, what we're saying here is that we've got an election coming up now, very, very soon. And so therefore, at gods5stones.com, we're trying to make it people aware. I think we're going to find algorithms in every single state that are designed one way or another to be triggered and used.
Yeah.
And so therefore, this whole mail-in ballot fraud system, the immediate solution has got to be field canvassing to determine if these people are real or not. You can't just dump 500,000 mail-in ballots and say just because they came in mail-in ballot, you can't go and question whether these are any of them
No, no, no.
fraudulent.
Well, we'll have you back and yeah, no, we'll have you back as this develops. And I owe you an answer. I got a piece of paper. I got to get inputs to you, and I will do that today. I promise. But Jerry, before you go, and we got to bring in Paul Stone here in a second.
Yes, of course.
Are you unburdened by what has been and open to what can be? Just asking, because apparently that's a big issue with Kamala Harris. So I hope you're unburdened by the past. I'm just asking because I just want to make sure you're politically correct here. Just saying. So,
Yeah, well,
in case we do get sued, we can say we were unburdened.
Kamala is my favorite. Kamala is that the states ought to be united.
I know. Who would have thought?
Are we the United States? Well, the states ought to be united.
Well, you know, you have the right to your ambitions and your and your right.
We are a people
and be
who
that's right.
Have ambitions,
and you're compassionate
right.
too. Yep.
We have a right to ambitions. Did you know that? I've been looking. You know, I got my old little constitutional guide out yesterday, and I studied. I was up late last night going through it. I never found the right of being ambitious.
Yeah,
well, maybe I'm just missing something. I don't know.
Well, I just don't forget the states ought to be united.
Yeah. Well, speaking of united, good morning, Paul. Welcome, Paul Stone. Colonial Metals, yeah. So Colonial Metals. That means you're like close to the founding fathers because you believe in the fact that we had really good basis. And I guess to Jerry's point, we are kind of united. We were united as the 13 colonies became the states, and here we are 50. You know, at the grand old number of 50 states, and apparently, Jerry. You know, I don't know. I don't want to get you in trouble here, but are you unburdened by what has been? Because that seems to be a thing we're concerned about. I'm just asking.
I'm just happy the states are united.
Jerry, I was listening to you there, and I just had a thought. If you can hear me, okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, welcome.
The most credible validation that the mail-in ballot is real is someone would have licked the stamp.
Well,
so
I'm sure
that undermine your argument.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you know, I think that's what they were doing at the Puff Daddy parties. A lot of licking, and they just had stamps too, so they could do both.
You better ask Obama. Better ask Obama and LeBron James about that. I'm sure they got good testimony about that.
Oh my!
I'm sure.
Anyway,
that's gotta hurt. That's a heyo. You
that's gotta hurt. Yeah,
heyo.
And I don't want to go down that path.
Licking stamps. I'm sorry.
No.
Reread Jesus calling again.
Yeah, I think we need another one. We need a cleansing.
We need Jesus today. That's for sure.
The states ought to be united.
We just got Jerry calling.
That's right, Jerry calling. Jerry. All right, so Paul, welcome to the show. We're talking about all sorts of things which, while not directly relating to what you do, have an impact. You can impact on what they can do, what our audience can do. And as Jerry's pointed out, there's a lot of shenanigans going on with systems of systems. Not only have they compromised potentially, we're not saying this is a definitive. Jerry's doing research. He's actually sharing with us the current results. It's on Five Stones, God's Five Stones. Go check it out. But Jerry has also been very good at pointing out that it's taken time for these things to be degraded. And one of the things we talk about with you, Paul, is the fact that we have a degraded system, economic system, a system that relies on currency and fiat currency, which is not reliable. And I think this is something that people have to recognize. Not only do we have issues with things like climate, we talked about climate, we talked about that manipulation, the whole manipulation, all the fictions that they've done on that. We've talked about, obviously, the voting issues and the fictions we've seen on that. Let's talk about the fiction of our money system right now, Jerry, and the dangers of having fiat currency as that which people rely upon only for their family's wealth.
Well, my question is, I think Paul is right in terms of especially if Trump is elected, we're going to have a massive global crash. That'll be the first act of resistance. And I think it's unavoidable anyway. I mean, you cannot have this level of debt and irresponsible spending without, and the stock market is clearly now a bubble. I mean, it went from 30,000, the Dow 30,000 to 42,000 like overnight. It's a bubble right now, and bubbles burst. It's going to burst. It's only a matter of time. And I think people are becoming aware of that.
Right. So that back over to you, Paul. So Paul, obviously, as Jerry outlined, there are real issues, and Jerry is he's a good kind. He's not a Dr. Biden kind of. He's not a Joe Biden doctor. He's a real doctor. He's got real credentials. Just saying. And to that point, Paul, I'm only kind of halfway kidding because I'm talking. Jerry and I are friends, and Jerry. So Paul, what do you think now that we've outlined kind of the challenges? What should we do? What can you do to help the folks look at how to strengthen their financial futures?
Well, that's, one of the beauties of what we work with in precious metals is that everyone already knows what to do. It's helping people find validity, credibility, maybe pull the curtain back for them to help them understand the proximity to which things can go extremely wrong. That's why I just focus on, what's the dollar worth? The dollar is a resource. You burn that resource to move the economy around, right? You burn that resource before you burn energy, right? So you buy stuff with the dollar, and we think of it as money. And I'm trying to get people's perceptions to grow, to consider it as a resource, as if it literally came out of the ground. And one of the greatest wake-up calls, and I don't know if I've mentioned this little visual on the show before. If I have, forgive me if you've already heard it. But let's pretend that the headlines we're reading today, including all the ugly ones we're reading this morning, was very alarming. It was that the scientists and all the engineers in the energy industry were counting it all wrong. They counted how much oil they thought was in the ground. Turns out a lot of that, most of it is water. Right. And there's only 3% of all the hundreds of years of oil that we thought was in the ground. Only 3% of the world's oil remained in the ground to be pumped up to the surface. What if that was the headline? You would understand that within a year, 6 months, a couple years, you're out of oil, the entire global economy stops. Now pretend that's the dollar.
Exactly.
That's where we're at. And I'm disgusted and confused myself and mystified and angry and frustrated and a few other things at how any leadership of any entity could think that it would destroy its currency resource to make things okay today, because they have no other idea or willingness to look at any other idea on what to do when your country's economy doesn't produce enough money during the year to cover its costs.
And obviously it's the value of the money too, Paul. And that's the other
well, that's
issue.
what I mean. Value, buying power.
Yeah.
Power.
So Chris just brought this up. And this is something I wanted to talk to you about, Paul, because as we speak right now, and I'm glad Chris brought up the BRICS article.
Yes.
We talked about Bond villains today, and they're real. I mean, this is not science fiction. One of those, well, there's a real Bond villain, and I'm saying
had to do it.
that is a Bond villain. I mean, even dresses like one. I understand that if you get, he also has that rotten egg sulfur smell if you're around him. Just nothing. I'm not saying anything if but it is what it is. But Paul, my point is, nations who are invested in the future of global commerce are now moving towards BRICS. Now, everyday Americans may look at that and it's like, well, so what? Well, so what is BRICS is attempting right now to undermine the very system of currency, Paul, you just talked about. The very system that we rely upon to go out and buy eggs or put gas in the car.
Right.
They're working to remove the value of our currency even further. Right now, it's only 3%. Imagine if even that goes away, and we're going to be left with virtually nothing. So that's what we're talking about. Worst case. There you go.
Yeah. Say that with a British accent and take BRICS out and say America.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
This is a sport, right?
Yep.
Running the world isn't just some script in a James Bond movie. It's the sport. When you get to head of state, your sport is running the world if you can find a way to do it, right? So when we took over from the British, imagine all the people in the news and drinking in their pubs, laughing at how some upstart country, America, was going to take over for the British Empire.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
So they're now having that conversation about America. This is how it goes. This is what the history shows. It doesn't show any other history of reserve currency countries getting it and losing it. What would we see in the headlines that might indicate we're losing that status? There's a good one.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's the weakness of Washington's choice making that has caused the dollar to be led to the guillotine, to then create this void for other nations to see where they can find strength against us.
Precisely.
Exactly.
So,
And so
to
your
that note,
money, everyone's savings is located in the resource that is being slaughtered and eventually worth nothing, mathematically speaking. You'd have to say to yourself, well, can Trump stop the money printing? No, he couldn't stop it while he was president. It's not something you'd blame him for. He's one man and a couple of loyal soldiers that work with him, right? Even if it's 100 loyal soldiers, the government payroll is 1.4 trillion a year. So how is one person for a few years going to be able to completely change the trajectory of mind thinking and decision making out of Washington? They're not. And your retirement savings is so precious, right? You got to look at making crisp choices about the future of how that's going to go.
Right. So, and let me help illustrate what you're saying, Paul, for the folks. So at one point in time, it was said, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Remember that?
Yeah.
Britannia ruled the waves. And because they ruled the waves, they ruled commerce globally. Literally, that was their empire. And so at some point, they were the ones who dictated terms for the globe regarding economics. The British, the pound sterling. Well, as of today, even though we have a weak currency, theirs is weaker. Now, the pound sterling, which used to be, again, a fiat currency that was worth 2 to 3 times our dollar, it's worth 1 for 1. Think about that. And so, that their system diminished. Do we really think our system's not going to be the next to diminish? And we now have people out to diminish it for us, right? I mean, that's what's going on.
And it gets even simpler on how it happened. So every country, the British Empire, French Empire, the Dutch, the Portuguese, Spanish, and the Romans, how did they become powerfully wealthy? They took other people's stuff and folded that wealth into Rome, right? So we didn't get rich taking over Puerto Rico and Guam. How we got rich was mom and dad had
the Clintons did. That's a different
story. 40s and the 50s, and they all rolled into the economy that was a nicely framed canvas after 2 world wars, the assembly line process, research, R&D, connective tissue between getting stuff from the ground into your store shelf. And so about 60, 70 million folks rolled into the economy in the 60s and 70s. Boom. Yeah. So now just pretend, a snake is swallowing a volleyball. That population bubble moves through the snake and it creates everything awesome. That was our way of taking over the world. We outmanned the world, manufacturing, investing, ideas, creativity. But then what? That volleyball ends up brown doo-doo and is no longer producing in your economy. And it's a giant cost to your economy. And that's what happened in 97. And gold was 397 and the market was like 1,400. Gold is up 8,000% since this turn in our economic situation.
8,000. Think about that. So that's what you need to do, folks. Check out Paul. Go to colonialmetalsgroup.com. Check it out on behalf of our friend Ed Henry. Our overlord Ed. We always talk about Ed. Ed, we love you. We just, we're kidding about that. There he is.
Taskmaster.
The Taskmaster. The Ed. So colonialmetalsgroup.com/Ed-Henry. Check it out. You will not be unhappy. You will be happy. And think about what we just said. 8,000%. The value has gone up, and it's still an amazing and important investment you need to make for your family. These things, as we've talked about, Paul, and I know I always talk about this, but I think it's important. If it's good enough for the ancient Egyptians, if it's good enough for the Romans, I think it's good enough for us, because the metals that we now talk about, gold and silver, are those things which have endured since the beginning of civilization, and the value speaks for itself. So check out, Paul and his team, 800-805-4034 if you want to do it the old-fashioned way. I don't know. Do you all have rotary phones? No, you don't have rotary phones. Just pick up the phone and call, but do something to invest in your family's future, right, Paul?
Yeah, it's about, so if Washington makes choices that go against your best interest, you better start making some of your
Oh,
own.
they've already
that
made
go
those
to your
choices.
best
They've
interest,
already
right?
made those choices. We
People
need to
need
help the folks get prepared. That's right. So
Right.
excellent. So
prepared.
cool. So thank you, Paul. So I want to continue. I always say that I do, because people have to understand that the economic future, even if Donald Trump wins, ain't going to turn around overnight. As much as I think he's got some great ideas to lower the cost of energy, you lower the cost of energy, other things automatically come down. If you do things to actually help prompt economic growth through cutting of regulations, that's wonderful, but it takes time. So no matter what, you will not go wrong by having Paul and his team help you change your portfolio, or add to your portfolio, I should say,
Right.
gold and silver. I've got gold and silver. You should have gold and silver. It's one of those things that you must have if you're going to actually have the ability to protect yourself. So, Paul, we're going to have you come back and talk more about that. But Chris, did you want to? Chris had a surprise for us, right?
Yes, because the esteemed group known as White Dudes for Harris has
Uh-oh.
put out a new commercial, and
Uh-oh.
I thought I might as well spoil everybody's breakfast this morning, since I'm the guy who posts the Nancy Pelosi pictures to do it every show or whatever else, or maybe something.
Well, we
from the
posted that
West End.
Hillary and Puff Daddy thing earlier, which is pretty
Yeah.
like.
That grossed people out. So this is a lose your breakfast warning, but this is what the White Dudes for Kamala Harris have come up with as far as a commercial, and it's aimed at the guys. So Jerry, Paul, I'd like to hear what you think about this. Tony and Karen, from a lady's perspective, do you think?
Yeah,
this is
Karen,
gonna
you
hit
need
the
to
guys
you
well?
need to chime in on this.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm here.
So here
I'm
we
ready.
go, and I want to hear from the Patriots on this too. Does this move you? Does this move the dial for you?
Hey,
Move something.
white dudes. So I think we're all pretty sick of hearing how much we suck. Every time you go online, it's the same story. We're the problem. And yeah, some white dudes are. Trump and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse, shouting nonsense in their stupid red hats and acting like they speak for us when they don't. All they've ever done is screw us over. But if you're not on the MAGA train, where do you go? Isn't it just swapping out one crappy option for another? Then it hit me. This isn't about picking teams. It's about who's got a plan that's going to make life better for me and my family. So I've been doing my own research and decided to check out Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And before you jump down my throat, they're actually talking to guys like us. No lectures, no BS. Just real solutions that protect our freedoms and help us take care of the people who matter. And honestly, I think Harris and Walz are the ones to make that happen. End of the day, you're your own man. It's your call. But if anyone gives you crap about it, tell them it's none of their damn business.
Ooh, the fake tough guy, huh? The guy.
I like the end. It's none of their damn business. Like, it's such like an old farty thing to say. Like, it's none of your damn business. Plus
Yeah,
the
get off
fact,
my lawn. Get off my lawn.
what? They get upset. They always say, Donald Trump calls people names, this and that. Why are you calling my red hat stupid? Like, what's that about, too? Like, the name calling, it's all right there. I mean, and this isn't even a real guy. This is some voiceover actor that they hired. And you know what? I am personally offended by the fake New Jersey accent that they made him put on for this commercial. It is
I got
offensive.
better for you. It's a fake Dennis Leary voice.
I think that's George Clooney is my guess.
Leary. Well, Leary.
I think these guys have been licking too many stamps.
Yeah. They've been,
Man.
I think so. Well, I think that's the thing about so the whole concept, the idea. And by the way, why do I always think of Harry Balls every time I hear of Harris Walls? I don't know why I get that.
Here's some comments from our Patriots.
That's something to bring up in private once a week with somebody, Tony.
Let's hear some comments from our Patriots here. Ordinary Passenger says he talks tough, but probably has purple hair and weighs 90 pounds.
Hey, Mike.
What's up, my friend? How you doing?
Oh, good. I'm just finishing up.
Don't do the
Oh,
230 net neutral says
put Jerry's mic
the
on
difference between Judes and dudettes. So I'm gonna have to do that right now. I'll take care of that.
So well, I think it's so. If you see, those are the guys who literally are. They live in their little apartment.
I'm proud of my
They
lawn.
own nothing and are happy. You will own nothing and eat crickets and have cats. And I love cats. Don't get me wrong. I'm as my self-professed girlfriend. Well, I'm professing. What am I saying? She actually is a cat lady. She's proud of it. Just saying, she's wonderful. You're wonderful. You are wonderful. I called her out yesterday too for something else. Anyway, so she's wonderful, and she loves, and I love cats too. Just saying, but these guys worship cats, and as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they dress like cats on weekends because you know what I mean. They have a hard time fitting in. So I think that's what. Yeah, look, I'm sorry. Karen, would you date a beta guy? I'm just asking.
You know what? And when I saw the commercial, and I wasn't going to say this on the show, I was going to spare myself, but I'm going to say it. It reminded me of my first husband. So that's all I'm going to say. It's the God honest truth. And I will tell you, he had a Bernie Sanders sign on his lawn. And absolutely, I'm not even kidding. And it was every reason flooded back to me about why I have nothing to do with this human being. And although we have beautiful children together, we're just never going to mesh. Like it's another planet altogether, like another planet. So the answer quickly is I've done that. And I'm very thankful that, yes, I would never do it again, ever, ever, ever. But that was a different time and a different place. I voted for Ross Perot, and I thought he was a Republican.
No,
I was misled.
Ross Perot is an independent, so that's fine.
Yeah, look, you went there and you got the T-shirt. You know, it's we all have experiences.
I have great kids.
We are the sum of our experiences. Life is a series of choices, and we make choices and we learn from them. That's
True, very true. But it's relatable. Could be anybody's family, you know?
Right. But anyway, so you all need to make the right choice. Our Patriots. Call up Paul Stone. Check him out. 800-805-4034.
And if your ex-husband has a sign in his yard for Bernie Sanders or your current husband, divorce him right away.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you're in a relationship where someone clearly has a mental incapacity, I can't speak this morning. Did you know, Paul? I said we were having wake up Jesus this morning, and man, oh man,
it's wake up Tony.
I guess we woke him up, didn't we? Anyway, incapacitated. If you are with someone who's clearly incapacitated, you may want to rethink what you're doing. So we
will help you. Come here to Wake Up Patriots, and we will help you because we're going to wake up the Patriots. Come to light.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
this message just shows about
every Tuesday.
Hey yo.
Yeah, every Tuesday.
Be back.
All right, so we got to go. This is another complaint. We're already out of time.
On the air, Karen.
We're out of time already, and we get complaints from the Patriots. I know because they love sticking with us and having these conversations. And I as I said this morning, it's always a conversation. So, Paul, thank you for being here. I sincerely mean, I love you being here, and we appreciate everything you're doing regarding helping people become not only educated on the issues that are not easy to understand. I think people just take things for granted. People just take for granted that things are going to work out. And yes and no. Yes, they will work out, but you need to invest in how they work out, right? I mean, that's the thing. You've got to do that. So go to check out the website, right? Right, Paul?
Yep. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Karen. Good to see you all again.
Hi, nice to see you.
And Karen, we'll see you again next week. And then
you will Tuesday, every Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess I'm that's right. And then Chris, I guess I'm stuck with you. I actually said it on the air last night. Jokers to the left of me, fools to my right, stuck in the middle with you. But I was referring to Joe Biden, not Chris.
That's okay.
I said it on it.
He's stuck
that's right.
with me. Did you
know? I also
the chat's asking about Larry. Does anybody have an update on Larry? Because the chat's been asking. I know we're over time, but I tried to text Ed and said, "How's Larry doing?"
I don't know. No, I don't. Okay. I haven't talked to Larry. I know Larry. Larry, by the way, back when I was a whistleblower, when my book Operation Dark Heart came out, he actually had me come out and do a talk at University of Dayton when he was there as a professor. So I'm a big fan of Larry's. Just saying. So I don't know what happened. So I will ask.
All right. Well, I had people asking. People inquiring minds want to know in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, it's not McLean Stevenson, by the way, not to be confused. Okay, that's a different Hello Larry.
What?
Yeah.
Anyway, see, I need a rim shot here. If you guys get the Hayos from me, I need something like a little rim shot here. This way, no.
Great. All right. Well, Patriots, thank you for being here. Paul, thank you. Karen, thank you. Chris, thank you. good to see that that Ed McMahon training's paid off. So we'll see everybody again tomorrow morning.
Have a great one. Bye, guys.
Bye.